Hey everybody, Kowalski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Star Trek Discovery discussion videos. Today we're going to be doing a quick trailer review / breakdown of the trailer 2, the official trailer for Star Trek Discovery that was released just a couple of hours ago today on May 17th. So let's go ahead and jump right into a few of the screenshots that I took of it. If you haven't checked the video out, please definitely go ahead and do that. I have the link of it down in the description below. So obviously though, before we get started, hashtag spoiler alerts for anything Star Trek Discovery related. So if you don't want to know anything about going on in Star Trek Discovery, be sure to go check out another one of the videos on the channel and steer clear of this one, because we are going to get into a lot of spoilers that were revealed and some speculation. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that we see at the beginning of the trailer is Michelle Yeoh and Sonequa Martin Green's character walking on an unknown desert planet. My guess is this most likely is either Vulcan or maybe even some unknown arid world. And the discussion that they're having is about how they're a little bit lost. They don't have really a direction as to where they're going, which I feel maybe is a little bit foreboding towards the Sonequa Martin Green character, because the next line of dialogue is from Michelle Yeoh saying that, you know, let's go ahead and talk about the fact that you've been underneath my command for 7 years, but you haven't applied for your own command yet. And she says that she thinks it's time for her to have her own command. So then we cut to this next scene where Michelle Yeoh pulls out what appears to be an old school TOS tricorder mixed a little bit with what the Enterprise tricorders looked. So it's kind of got like a mixture view to it. I do like the way that that looks. A lot of people are comparing it the way that they're dressed and the visual styles of this sequence to that of The Force Awakens with Rey and everybody. I mean, just because it's women wearing desert clothes doesn't exactly require it to be related directly to The Force Awakens. In fact, in my mind, it goes straight to Dune, and they're hanging out on Arrakis, and this is a Frank Herbert remake. That was where my first thought went to. So it's unfair, I think, to make that comparison. I just wanted to go ahead and point that out, though. But so they go ahead, and she activates her tricorder, and they beam off the planet. But before they beam off the planet, we get our very first glimpse of the USS Shenzhou. As you guys can see it here, it actually comes out of what appears to be a low-level either dust or lightning storm, and the ship is inside of the atmosphere. Now, this is important to note for one of two things. Number one is the ship that we're going to be dealing with, at least within the pilot episode, is not the USS Discovery, but the USS Shenzhou, and that these ships are capable of entering it, obviously, into orbit, something that the Kelvin timeline universe stuff does a lot more frequently than previous Star Trek iterations ever did. I mean, we know we saw the NX-01 in atmosphere a lot, and occasionally we would see the NCC styled ships to be in the atmosphere, but it wasn't very often. So obviously this is a normal thing for these ships to do, which is to enter the atmosphere. So it's interesting that they are entering this atmosphere, which again makes me feel like it's not really an unknown world. It's probably either Vulcan or some other known desert planet, because they probably wouldn't be flying their ship around for everyone to see if this was a pre-warp civilization that they were investigating. Okay, so the next thing that we see is what appears to be the top view of the hull of the USS Shenzhou inside of warp speed. Now, this effect isn't so hot, but I did want to make a note of this, because in my opinion, the warp bubble effect, obviously you guys can't tell that from this image, but the warp bubble effect on the outsides reminds me a lot of the way that the warp field looked in Star Trek Beyond. And I think that universally everybody really liked the way that that cool warp bubble was inside of Star Trek Beyond. That looked really cool and was very well done. So I think that they're kind of replicating that effect for the show, which if they do, that's great, and it makes sense. It kind of ties it into that timeline and period, and it also reuses some of the visuals from the Kelvin timeline universe, which we know for a fact that they are using a lot of those visuals from the Kelvin timeline universe. And that brings me to my next picture. Here we get the first full frontal glimpse of the new Starfleet looking uniform. We see that it's got the traditional blue colors to it. It's got, it appears to be like a zip down. The rank pip is on there. Of course, the Starfleet logo is attached to it, and it looks like the organization that the individual's attached to is represented by the color that goes along the side of the torso and the top of the pants, and it looks like the rank is represented on also these weird like little shoulder pad things. It looks like other people in the background there have similar ones, but maybe not as much. I don't know if that represents rank or if maybe that's just the design for different uniforms and things of that nature. Overall, the uniforms don't look great, but this is definitely kind of a steal from the way that the uniforms looked very similar to that in Star Trek Beyond. I'm not going to get into too much of how we know what those uniforms look like, because hashtag spoilers. But if you have seen Star Trek Beyond, you kind of know what I'm talking about. The color scheme is very similar to that, and even the way that the bridge looks in the background is also reminiscent of the USS Franklin in a lot of different ways. And here we go with the first view of not only the captain's chair, but we also see Michelle Yeoh inside of her uniform, and you can see her shoulder pads are a little bit wider, and you can see his are more narrow, his are more narrow. So again, I do think this is representative of the rank, perhaps. And maybe there is no pip right here. It looked like there was a pip on Sonequa Martin Green's. In fact, you can kind of see it right here. I don't know if maybe that's a #1 or EXO kind of rank insignia piece that other people don't have. I don't know. Or maybe that's just a weird angle on the uniform. But this definitely does represent what the ranking is. Instead of it being on this the cuffs where we see that in the TOS era, it's on the shoulder pads now, which makes sense. So my guess here, just looking at this, is we have our command crew here, which is inside of this weird gold color. Then we have our engineering kind of guy, or potentially even security, which is this bronze color, and then this more silver color, which you can see on these two people here, which is most likely going to be the science class types of folks that are on board the ship. Now, I do want to go ahead and note that we haven't actually seen anybody else's rear piece of the uniform, but if you look right here, this looks to be like almost as if there's some kind of belt or sash piece that extends around this particular person's uniform. So I'm curious as to what this is, or if that just is, maybe that's just an extra piece to it, or what's going on. I'm not quite sure what that is. But I do want to go ahead and say that I like the look of the bridge. We, of course, have got plenty of lens flare, which is taken from the Kelvin universe. We've got the blue uniforms, which is taken from the Kelvin universe. And this bridge, definitely, in my opinion, is very reminiscent of a slightly more upgraded version of the USS Franklin bridge that we saw in Star Trek Discovery. So, again, I feel like they're maintaining that visual style, which is fine to me. It makes sense that they're doing that. So I'm not really against any of those things. So this is a cool shot. I really like this, and seeing Michelle Yeoh and her character in uniform in the captain's chair, I think is awesome. That's just a personal preference for me. Okay, so then the biggest scenes that happen in this trailer obviously don't take place on the USS Shenzhou. It actually takes place on what appears to be the Klingon sarcophagus ship. Now, I have made a separate video about the sarcophagus ship. Please go ahead and check out that link below in the description. I do have that link there, where I discuss the possibility of having a Klingon king from the past be resurrected in order to help, either retake Kronos from the weakened Chancellor and the BS government that they have there, and basically start a war in the galaxy that will restore the glory of the Empire of what it was once before. Because many of you guys may know, just kind of an excerpt from that other video that I made, the Klingons used to be that they had an emperor and multiple kings below that, and then they had a rule, and they ruled the planet, and then they all got overthrown. My guess is that this sarcophagus ship is going to house someone, either, I don't think it's going to be Kahless. It's not going to be Kahless. It's going to be a Klingon king of old that they're going to resurrect in order to retake Kronos. I feel like that's going to be the main plot point. I feel like that's what the USS Shenzhou encounters inside of the trailer. They discover this sarcophagus ship out in deep space, and that they interrupt this, most likely this ritual ceremony that appears to be where they're actually reviving somebody. And so this is the first look we got of inside of the Klingon ship, and then they go ahead and switch us to a top-down view of what it is that's floating here. And then we see here, as you can see, this definitely is a sarcophagus. That's definitely a Klingon's head. That's definitely a Klingon that's standing off to the right of this thing. And there's somebody definitely inside of this. I do, again, believe that this is not just a regular old sarcophagus, because you can see what appears to be lights on in here. So this is probably a ceremonial encasing that covers a technological, maybe some kind of long-term bat suit. My phone's blowing up right now because everyone's freaking out about the trailer. Sorry about the alerts. But everyone, this looks like it's going to be keeping somebody alive for a very long period of time. So that's why, again, I do think that this Klingon king is going to be resurrected, and that's who the main protagonist, antagonist is going to be in Star Trek Discovery. And here we go with our very first full frontal, no BS shot of the Klingons. I don't know how I feel about this. It looks so much different. And again, I do think that because of the way that the uniforms look, because of the way that the Klingons look, I think that all of these people are just on a generational ship with a Klingon king on there that they are keeping alive in the hopes of reviving their empire and restoring Kronos to its former glory. And I'm wondering if, because of inbreeding of the people that were on the ship, that's why the Klingons look so different, or if the fact that they were just part of a much older Klingon cast and they were not, if they didn't evolve the same way that Klingons did on Kronos, and that's why they look different as well. I'm not 100% sure. This definitely has some looks to it from original Klingons, and then also Klingons from the Kelvin timeline universe as well. So it's kind of a mishmash between the two. I'm still sticking with my theory that these are Klingons of much an ancient past. That's why the uniforms look so weird, but they still look kind of Klingon-esque, and they're going to be reviving a badass Klingon king to help be the antagonist of the series and help restore Kronos to its former glory. And here we go with Ambassador Spock's dad, Sarek, Ambassador Sarek, who is played by actor's name who I forgot. You guys are going to kill me. Eviscerate me in the comments. I forgot his name. Sorry. But what's interesting about the scene and why I wanted to throw it in there is, number one, we get to see Sarek in the flesh again. Number two is he's talking to a younger version of Sonequa Martin Green's character, a young daughter of, you know, a young girl of her, excuse me. And I got the very strong feeling that he was related to her. They were on Vulcan, and the lines he's saying is, "You will never learn how to speak Vulcan. Your tongue is too human." So I'm wondering if maybe Sarek got a little busy with another woman on Earth, and this is his other, you know, half-Earth daughter, and maybe she's related to Spock in some way. I'm not 100% sure. That would explain why Sarek is talking to her and potentially trying to teach her English. Otherwise, I have no idea why he'd be talking to her. But it was an interesting sequence, but obviously that's going to be a huge plot point in the show as to what's going on with Sonequa Martin Green's character. And the final thing I want to go ahead and talk about right here is we get the first glimpse, and you guys can clearly see USS Shenzhou right here on the side. This is definitely an android's head. This is an android-like character. What's interesting is that this appears to be much less advanced than the android we saw in the Kelvin timeline universe, and I think that may have just been related to the way that the technology formed in that universe. This is obviously taking place in the Prime universe, so this appears to be a very early design for an android, and we didn't really get to hear this thing talk or see it actually work, but it's interesting to see this on the ship, and I'm curious to see what they're going to be doing with this. This is probably my favorite piece of the trailer, was this tech right here. I don't know what the hell's going on here. It looks like maybe some sound reverberations here. It looks like a little mouthpiece, and then maybe some kind of weird calculations on a display screen here. So I love the way that this looked. I'm really excited to see what this character is and who's even playing it / voicing it. So I'm super excited to see that as well. So that's really interesting to me, and hopefully we find out more about what this character's name is, because I don't even know what this character's name is yet. Okay, so overall, I'm going to go ahead and list out my feelings in regards to the total amount that I'm going to give ratings for each of the different pieces of the trailer. As you can see, my rating scale is out of 10. Music, I gave it 8 out of 10. I thought the trailer's music was really well done. I thought it was really great. Cinematography, 6.5 out of 10. I thought the visuals there, excuse me, the cinematography there were pretty good. I liked a lot of the cat angles and a lot of the top-down view angles of the ships, and of course that establishing shot of the USS Shenzhou was actually really good. The acting, I'm giving a 5 out of 10. I did not feel like Sonequa Martin Green talked mostly in the trailer along with Michelle Yeoh, and Sonequa Martin Green's character was just standing out to me as bizarre. Like, it just didn't sound right to me. I don't know what it was. I just wasn't getting into it for some reason. I wasn't feeling it. The visuals are going to get a 5 out of 10. The visuals and production value, in my opinion, are kind of going hand in hand. You guys can't see it, but I got it as a 4 out of 10 on there. It just felt a little cheap. I don't know. If you compare this to the Orville trailer that came out just a couple of days ago, which I hate to do that, but unfortunately I'm going to, that trailer seemed like I had a little bit more production value and better visuals than this trailer did. The visuals here weren't so great, and the production value felt a little cheap, especially when I looked at the Klingons' makeup and their costumes. It looked a little cheap to me. The bridge looked a little cheapish. The shot of the Shenzhou coming out of the storm was great, but inside the warp bubble, it looked very cheap, and I know that's probably not done, but, I mean, this is your trailer. You put your best foot forward. You don't put unfinished visual designs and CGI graphics in your trailer to get everyone excited about it. So overall, those are down. My overall rating for the trailer was rather disappointing. It seems to be following exactly along the style that I expected it to follow along with, which is it's trying to go for something a little bit darker. It's trying to go for something a little bit more BSG-esque. It's trying to go for something a little bit more serious and heavy-toned as opposed to something more lighthearted and adventure-wise, which was what Star Trek TOS was about. And all the subsequent seasons of Star Trek all had discovery and excitement and fun times to them, and it was perfectly crafted, especially in DS9. It was perfectly crafted in DS9 between darker elements and lighter elements that involved, you know, what Star Trek was about. So obviously this was just the first trailer. I'm going to continue watching everything that comes out about it. I hope that we get more information in regards to what we've seen, and I hope that we see a little bit more footage that's a bit more polished in the long term, and we get to see finally what the show's going to be like here coming up in the fall, and I'll of course do a full review on that there. So anyways, guys and gals, thank you for watching this video. These are my thoughts and ideas and feelings about what we saw inside the trailer. I'm eager and curious and excited to see and hear what all of you thought about the trailer and what you thought about my breakdowns. Did you guys like what you guys saw in the trailer? Did you like the fact that we saw the USS Shenzhou? Do you think I'm right about the Klingon king being resurrected now? I feel like that's kind of a given at this point. Do you like the cool android thing that I have pictured everywhere? Because I really liked it. Other than that, let me know what you guys and gals liked about it. Let me know what you think I missed, that maybe you guys saw something that was really cool or disappointing that you guys saw. I'm really curious to hear what all of you guys and gals think about it. Please throw a like and a subscribe up on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at RealCatWalski, and follow me on Facebook at Facebook.com/RealCatWalski, and I'll see you guys later. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies! Of having a King on Cling,